So I was assigned to talk about 3 different topics. Because of the lapse in funding for the federal government, I was only allowed to use 4 words in the title. And that's why you can't make sense of that. So I'm going to talk about the Million Veterans Program, the Cooperative Studies Program, and the Vinci databases. So the learning objectives are listed on this slide, where I guess there was more money available when I wrote that. These projects are all within the Office of Research and Development. I don't have any conflicts of interest in this regard because I don't have anything really to do with the Office of Research and Development directly. My office is off to the side, as is all of you, are in a different part of VHA. But you can see on the slide where the projects that I'm going to talk about sit. So there are several divisions within the Office of Research and Development, and the Million Veterans Program is connected actually to the directors. It is also has a dotted line connection to the Biomedical Laboratory Division, and the Clinical Studies Program is under the Clinical Science R&D, and Vinci is funded by HSR&D. All right, so first the Million Veterans Program. This program is a national voluntary research program which was established to create a research database of veterans' genetic, lifestyle, military exposure, and health information. The database is aimed to provide researchers with a unique, centralized, and standardized resource for conducting genetic and health research. It is a framework. It is not a project in itself. It does not have a hypothesis which is being tested prospectively. So it aims to enroll 1 million veterans and will establish one of the largest databases of genetic and health information in the United States. And the ultimate goal is to improve the health care of veterans. So any veteran can enroll if they are at one of the facilities which is participating. And the choice to participate or not is completely voluntary, of course. Their participation involves only filling out a survey, providing a biologic sample, which is a blood sample. It takes about 20 minutes. And then they allow access to their medical records and to any biological samples which the VA might hold in addition to that blood sample. Oh, and they also agreed to be contacted in the future. So you can look at this map and see if your facility is one of these 51 sites. They were activated in 4 different stages. They are spread pretty much across the country, but they obviously don't encompass all of the VA sites. There have been a very robust enrollment to the project across the country. Almost 200,000 veterans have been consented, and you can see that the online surveys are about 250,000. If you want more information, you can go to this website or you can call the number down there. All right, so next up is the Cooperative Studies Program. I think we're all probably, the clinicians in the audience are probably more familiar with this program. Its mission is to advance the health and care of veterans through collaborative research. Those studies, collaborative studies, are defined by 4 characteristics listed here. Their facilitates accumulation of patients sufficiently large to provide definitive answers to research questions. These are almost always what we would consider to be phase 3 studies, not phase 2 studies. And the investigators have to be from more than one VA facility, and there has to be an agreement to conduct the study in a uniform manner and uses a central protocol and coordination. So the first cooperative studies were done in the 1940s. They involved streptomycin treatment for tuberculosis in World War II veterans. The program was formally established in 1972, and since then about 175 clinical trials have been completed, and they cover the spectrum of all diseases that are common in the VA and some which are not so common. There is a national infrastructure to conduct these studies, and they include multi-site clinical trials, epidemiological and population research type studies, and genomic medicine research. So here's some examples of the findings of the CSP studies that have been done. I'll let you read those. They should be in your slide set. And probably more interesting are the oncology studies. There have not been a lot of oncology studies. There's one which I think really set the standard was Ki Hong's study, was published in the New England Journal in 1991 of randomized induction chemotherapy for larynx preservation. There was another study, which is actually a high-profile study, which is recently published also in the New England Journal, which was called the Pivot study, which was a randomization of patients with screen-detected prostate cancer to immediate surgery versus observation. It showed essentially no difference in overall survival. There was the VA's participation in the SELECT study, which was a preventive study with selenium and vitamin E for prostate cancer. There was a adjuvant study, which is now closed to accrual, which is still open for follow-up after prostate cancer resection. There's a VA keratinocyte carcinoma prevention trial. And then this last study was just opened in the last year, I believe. It is called the CONFIRM study, which is a randomized comparison between colonoscopy and FIT testing for screening of colorectal cancer. This map shows the locations of the CSP centers. This does not mean that if you're not at one of these centers that you can't propose a cooperative studies program. It just means that these are the centers that would help support the study. In particular, I'd point out Albuquerque, which is the pharmaceutical center, and would supply any drugs which are available, which are needed for the conduct of a study. All right, there's in your slide set, there are several slides which, if you're interested in proposing a study, you might want to look at more carefully. Just very quickly, some of the functional groups in the CSP program include biostatistics support, business administration operations, informatics, operational quality and management, and the program policy. The program has collaborated with a number of partners, including NIH, some of the institutes there, the DoD, universities, industry, and internationally. So if you wanted to look more information, I'd encourage you to go to this website. There is a cooperative process in the development of a study, so you don't need to have a final proposal. It is recommended that you talk with some of your colleagues before you develop an LOI, but early on in the process, if you're interested in proposing a study, I encourage you to talk with Grant Huang, who is the program director. And there's a link to the guideline. If you look at that website and the particular sites which are parts of that web page which are highlighted, will give you the information that you need to propose a study. The review process is shown on this slide. It undergoes both internal and external review. It's scored, and then a funding decision is made after those reviews are obtained. So I'm going to skip over a lot of these slides. The review consideration is also something which you want to know about. So the CSP is a unique VA infrastructure for conducting multi-site clinical research. It does make use of the central IRB, which is another characteristic of the CSP studies. It has established scientific, operational, and management processes which have contributed to key findings aimed at enhancing the health of veterans and their health care, and it is a very collaborative process. So site PIs and the facility leadership plays a very important role in the conduct of these studies. All right, and there's Grant's contact information. All right, last is Vinci. So Vinci is the VA informatics and computing infrastructure. It provides researchers with access to data sets and tools for analysis in a secure, high-performance computing environment. There are several components of Vinci, that is data, applications, a workspace, and projects in development, which I'll talk about in a minute. This is supported, as I said, by HSR&D in the Office of Research and Development, and also by OINT to some degree, and the PI is Jonathan Nebeker, who's located at Salt Lake City. And if you have information, if you want more information, the contact person is there. All right, so Vinci was a partner with the Corporate Data Warehouse. It hosts all the data available in the CDW, plus some unique data sets. Some examples of data sets which are included are what is called the CDW extractions from Vista. It's done on a regular basis. MedSAS, which is in SAS and SQL, DSS in SAS and SQL, TIU, radiology notes, and there are others. The list is actually pretty long, and the acronyms are relatively opaque to those of us who don't live and breathe this information. So if you don't have a database mining partner, you can go to the VERC website and look up these acronyms and find out what exactly these data sets are. So what is exactly in CDW? It includes many of the fields that we put information into, but not the text notes in general. So the radiology notes are an exception to that. The cancer registry is in Vinci. It is not being updated as often anymore or at all because of the lapse in funding, but that data is available through the corporate data warehouse and Vinci. There's another characteristic of Vinci is this tool called DART, which is a data access request tool. As we all know, what you can do and what you're permitted to do in the VA are two different things. So you have to ask permission and to use data, and the way that you do that in Vinci is through the DART. So you identify what data elements that you need or what data sets you need to look at. You put that request into the DART, provided that the data steward is listed on this slide. So if the data steward for the data that you're looking for is OHI, NDS, VIREC, or the VHA Privacy Office, then you can make the request right in here. It gets reviewed and it's all done. The cancer registry is not in DART, so if you're interested in using the cancer registry data, you would have to submit a separate request through the patient care services. All right, so this is just a map, and it doesn't project very well. I apologize for that. You can see that here is what we do. By interacting with Vista, that data gets sucked into the corporate data warehouse, and then through some magic that none of us need to understand probably, you can have access through your computer into a virtual environment at Vinci that allows you to access this data and to manipulate the data in a virtual workspace remotely. You can do that from within the VA firewall and also through the secure connections outside the firewall. So here are some examples of applications that are available in Vinci. There's a SAS, there's Strata, SPSS, these are all statistical packages, R, another statistical package, and tools to do natural language processing. You can also ask that they install packages if they're particular software that you need to do your work. So the workspace is this secure environment to access the data and the tools. Each study is given its own project site. Multiple people can collaborate using that same project site and using the common files. There's a virtual machine which is created, that could be created for specific development activities. So if you have particular requirements for the workstation, the common access point is using the remote desktop connection from anywhere within the VA and also including the VPN, as I already mentioned. And this just shows you, again, the structure of how this works, how the workspace is constructed. And if you want to learn more, here's the website. It's actually a very nice, user-friendly website. It has font which is large enough even for people like me to be able to read without glasses. And they're very simple terms about what it is you want to do. It gets a lot more complicated, I understand, once you get beyond this. And that's all I have to say.